Hi everyone, it's Carol Keller from Illinois in the US, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm coming to you today with some tips for how to use just part of a stamp when, for whatever reason, you don't want the whole sentiment on a project. So in this case, I'm using a stamp from the Hey Birthday Chick set that says Best of Cluck. And if I'm using it with the chicks, it makes sense to have a little pun, very cute. But if I want to use just Best of Luck on another set where I'm not using the chicks, I'm going to show you how to do it. So I've got my stamp on my block, and I'm going to take just a little piece of a sticky note with the adhesive on it. And I'm not using the whole sheet because it's too heavy. Since we're only covering up one letter, it won't really stay very well. And even this, let's make sure. So I've got it over just that letter C. Yep, it's not wanting to stick. Let me get a new one. The stickier your Post-it notes, the better this works. So we'll get a new one that hasn't been used. The more you handle it, of course, the less sticky it gets. And I'm going to put it right over that letter C. And stick it down. And then I'm going to take my Stampin' Write markers because they work beautifully for this. Our blends or our alcohol markers will not work. You need the Stampin' Write markers. And I'm just going to color it in right up to that sticky note, including that letter L for luck. And then, very important, before I stamp, I'm going to take that off. And I've got a scrap of basic white. And there it says, Best of Luck, with no stray marks, all perfectly colored. And I'm going to take my double oval punch and then punch it out. To use on a project. And then as I did here, I just mounted it on using the other oval punch on polished pink. So that's one way, especially when you're using our rubber stamps. That is what you want to do. But I also have a project where I used a photopolymer stamp and did the same thing. This sentiment is from the Perfectly Plaid stamp set, and it says, hoping that your busy year comes together in Christmas cheer. But I decided on my card, because the label wasn't big enough, I just wanted it to say Christmas cheer. And here's how I did it. I'm going to pull in a label. This was, again, from a paper pumpkin kit. So I have a label that will work for it to say Christmas cheer. And you can do the same thing. You can take your Post-it note and lay it along the rest of it. And then ink it up. But there is actually a little bit of stray there that you'd have to be just careful not to get ink on or to wipe it off before you stamp, but you can do it that way. Lay it down, and we're going to ink it up. And then in this case, again, always pulling off the sticky note before you stamp it on your project, but I'm also going to get, there's just a little bit of stray ink right there that I'm going to make sure is not there. And then stamp on our project. And there it is. There is, though, another way to do it when you're working with the photopolymer stamps. And this way is even a little bit easier. If you are nervous at all about doing it this way, you can certainly do it the way I first showed you. Because our Stampin' Write markers, you can use them, but sometimes the coverage isn't even. So I really like using the ink pad better with the photopolymer stamps. And this is how I did it on this project. You can use the edge of your ink pad to just ink up the parts that you want. So in this case, I have just the Christmas cheer. Hopefully you can see that inked up, and you can certainly see it this way. And then, oops, I just got stray ink on there from my fingers. And then stamp it on your project. So that stray mark came from my fingers, from the ink on my fingers, not from the stamp. But that's how you can do it. If you just lay it along the edge like this, and you can see right away that it's inked up. I know that the stamp is tinged pink, but it's very easy to see that you have the right amount of ink coverage on with the green, with the Just Jade, so that you can use it then on your project. Let me pull it this way so that you can see. And it will stamp again the same way, nice and cleanly on your project. So I like to do that. It doesn't really even take much practice, as long as you have a sentiment where the two sections don't overlap, which is the case in this case. If the Best of Cluck stamp were photopolymer, you still could not do it this way because that C would be in the way. It would be in the way of being on the edge of the ink pad most likely. So you wouldn't be able to do it that way. But with the photopolymers, and when it's a straight line and there are separations between the different parts that you want and don't want, then you can do it that way. Nice and easy and nice and clean. And the good part about using the ink pad is you don't have to worry about forgetting to take off your inked up Post-it note, because trust me, that happens more than you would think. You ink it up, and then without thinking you stamp, and then you get a big mess. So when you do it along the edge, it makes it a little bit easier. So those are my tips today for how to use just part of a stamp, either rubber or photopolymer. And I hope that you learned something today and that you can use this on your next project. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.